What's up, y'all? Slow-mo. So I decided to make another video today, okay? And I'm mass dropping a lot of these right now, so it'll come in a big bundle, probably just a season one. Working my way up to it, okay? So today, this isn't going to be my only video on this, okay? But I decided to put a video up on about the full circle effect, okay? And the full circle effect, it's basically divine judgment and how I kind of see that it works. Divine judgment works in a full circle. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes God will just throw you divine judgment. You don't know what type of shape you got there. Pentagon, octagon, you don't know how you got there, but it got there, okay? So, I formulated this one today to just talk about a few things, okay? They're important though, okay? So, one of the first things I wanted to talk about was the full circle effect or divine judgment when it came to the Saul and David book of Saul and David, all right, and also with Samuel, okay. So the situation with Samuel was he instructed Saul to wait for him to give him instruction, and instead Saul went and sacrificed an animal and decided to basically go to war and start slaughtering a bunch of these people, okay. And the divine judgment, once Samuel returned and saw that he disobeyed God, okay, he told him, you're going to have to hand over your kingship to somebody that's not in your family. So that happened early in the book, okay. That was where Saul had something that he knew that he screwed up, and that there was going to be a full circle for it eventually, okay. There was going to be a divine judgment for it where he was going to have to hand off his kingship, and he wasn't too happy about it. But he was aware of it, and I think it was in the back of his mind most of the time. Maybe some of it he was blind with David about it, okay. So the situation, what happened, okay. David comes along and he slays Goliath, okay, and he takes out this big dude, you know, with a rock, just slings a rock at him, wipes him out, okay. And you have to see it where you wonder at what point did Saul recognize David for who he was, okay. And I don't think it was the Goliath situation, but it might have been. It might have just been a little light bulb flicker for him. There was a verse in the Bible that talks about it's a quote of a saying that people talked about that was basically saying that David has slain more enemies than Saul. And that, I believe that was the point where he woke up and he decided to try and pin David to the wall with a spear. Twice, actually, okay? So we're just kind of like, what the heck? So, think about it, okay? David was introduced to Saul to play the lyre, to basically, and the lyre is an instrument, of course. I believe it's a stringed instrument that was able to get rid of an evil spirit that was placed upon Saul by God, okay? So he placed that evil spirit upon him. And that was how David was introduced into the situation. And how Saul didn't see that coming, I don't know. You know, if you really step back and look at the story, you know, 2 or 3 times over again, you're like, hello, how did you not see that one coming? But he played the lyre for him, and it calmed this evil spirit so he could basically be more level-headed. I assumed it was some sort of a possessive spirit that was placed upon him in precedence to the divine judgment of handing kingship. Something like that. I guess that's how you could see it. Other people may interpret it a little differently. So after he pinned him, or tried to pin him to the wall, okay, he pursued him relentlessly. He even chucked a spear at his son Jonathan, because he basically backed David, you know, like, well, what's your deal? Like, what's going on here? He chucked a spear. I don't know why he was throwing spears at people, but it's kind of a weird, like, signature move. I don't know. So you look at that situation, and what was the full circle? Okay, the full circle of disobeying God was losing your kingship. The full circle of pursuing David and trying to... He disobeyed God by not handing over his kingship when he should have. Instead, he pursued David and wanted to take him out, okay? What was the full circle for that? Well, at the end of that story, Saul goes to battle with the enemy, and the enemy outnumbers him. He asks his armor bearer, basically just carries all of his weapons and all that stuff, to just, please take me out, please just kill me before the enemy runs through us and everything. And it turns out wild, where basically Saul dies, and so does Jonathan, by the way, which that kind of sucked, because Jonathan was kind of cool through the story. I was like, this is pretty cool. So it was kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, like, it was God's will, this is how it happened, okay? And I see that story as kind of like the evolution to the Mark of Cain, as though the archetype happened, started at the snake and the stick in Genesis, in which the Mark of Cain, and you see how the Mark of Cain was so brutal that Cain killed Abel, okay? And that was a serious, like, it was like, whoa. And then you see this evolution, and I saw it was that Saul was marked, okay? And it's because he disobeyed God, and I think maybe God didn't want him to take out the people that he did take out. So he didn't wait for Samuel's instruction, okay? So moving forward, okay, we saw how this story kind of played out. And one lesson you can get from the story is, if you've done something and you know that God's asking you to do something like hand over kingship or do something like that, you better do it. Don't disobey him twice. Don't disobey him. The more you disobey God, the worse it's going to be. The worse the full circle is going to be. A full circle effect can be like divine judgment. It can be a dark one or it can be a light one. So if you sow light among somebody, say I helped all these people out, and then 5 years later they're helping me out. I sowed light and I got light in return. Saul was kind of a dark dude, okay? That's kind of how I saw it. He was kind of a dark dude. So it's kind of how you interpret it, but it's how it looked to me, okay? And when you're disobeying God, obviously you're in the dark, okay? You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay. So when it came to that, Saul faced a really heavy full circle, okay? Basically, he lost his life for it. And what he could have done was handed over kingship to David, and things would have been cool. David would have taken care of him. He was loyal to Saul to the point where he could have killed him multiple times, where he had him cornered and pinned. And he could have taken Saul out, and he didn't, because he was loyal to his king. He was that loyal, he obeyed God that much, that he didn't do that, okay? So later on in that story, you also have a situation where with David and Uriah, where David disobeyed God and slept with Uriah's wife while he was out in battle, and then came up with a plan which he succeeded, but also he failed. You have to see it in a certain way. He failed God's test, but he succeeded in his evil plot in a way, kind of. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe somebody like T.D. Jakes might be able to interpret it a little bit better. But he did it where he slept with his wife, but here's the deal, okay? He had a reputation and a mark on him because of what he did, and he had his comrade killed, okay? But Solomon was an important part of that picture that you need to see. So somebody can disobey God, and God will use that disobedience and what happened from that for his will. So you have to understand God's always in control. So first, full circles are full circles, divine judgment's divine judgment. You'll get what you get. You'll get what you give. If you start sowing darkness, you're going to get darkness in return, okay? All right. So let's move on. The story in Genesis that is relevant as well, between Jacob and Esau. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. If I am not, hit me with a stick and correct me. I'm okay with that, okay? So here's the deal. Jacob and his mom manipulated his dad to give Jacob Esau's blessing. And the part about selling off the birthrights early in the story, I don't really think this pertains to full circle, just because, well, he could have given him a bowl of stew and been a good brother. I don't really know. That was really confusing to me, okay? So the stolen blessing made a lot of sense. But selling off birthrights really didn't, the firstborn rights, that really didn't make much sense to me. I'm sure you could tap into other ministries and they'd probably come up with an answer for that. And maybe it's something I need to just look up. But what happened from that? Well, the stolen blessing happened. Esau found out, okay? And I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I really hope I'm not. I'm going to look at the pronunciation. Hopefully I didn't screw up this whole video. But Jacob stole his blessing, and his brother was pissed off, dude. Like, pursued him, and even in the, well, he was going to pursue him. He fled. Jacob fled based on his mom's kind of recommendation and order, like, you got to get out of here. Like, your brother's pissed. He basically just said he wanted to kill you. So time went by, okay? And there was a point where there was a reconciliation that was supposed to happen, okay? And mind you, after the blessing was stolen, Jacob went through a lot, dude. Like, his life was just, there was a lot. It was over and over again. Things kept happening to him. And he was like, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm like, I don't know. So, you see it this way, okay? What happened during the reconciliation? And I encourage people to read Genesis to see this. Jacob was freaked out that his brother was going to kill him and was basically fleeing from him, but at the same time was leaving him heartwarming gifts of livestock and leaving things behind so that he could see, like, hey, I come in peace. Like, I don't want you to take me out, bro. Like, he just knew that he was probably extremely mad, okay? So he was freaking out. He was leaving all this stuff behind, leaving livestock for him to have, and in the meantime, Esau was kind of scratching his head, like, what's this dude doing? Like, he almost kind of let it go, and I think it was because of how he was blessed by God in a way, okay? So, and I mean, they're brothers, okay? Like, I don't know exactly the way it played out in here for both of them, but you can see it through the scripture, okay? And so when he was pursuing Jacob to try and, reconcile with him, it was almost as though Jacob was running the other direction, okay? And I think he kind of figured that out. And he had, like, I think 500 men with him, trying to chase down his brother, hey, what's up, And that's intimidating when, your messengers come back and tell you, like, there's 500 dudes, we're leaving livestock and this and that, but, they're after us. And realistically, it's an interesting story, okay? So there was a certain point in that scripture where it talks about, and you can interpret this way, that Jacob wrestled with God, okay, and he was struck on the hip, and it says that it was a man that wrestled with him, and you can interpret it as though he wrestled with God. So what happened there? You can interpret this in a lot of different ways. I think that some people interpret it as though he wrestled with an angel. So the way I see this, okay, is when he wrestled with God and his hip was struck, what happened? Well, archetypically is the way I tried to figure it out. There's a lot of ways that people try and interpret this, and I don't know which way is right or wrong. It's a really hard one to interpret for me. But being struck on the hip was akin to an injury, okay? So Jacob had to face that reality that his brother was extremely mad and that he did something that God did not approve of, okay? And it's hard scripture. That part of that story is, I just comb over it and it drives me nuts, man, trying to figure it out. The full circle on that situation was the fear that Jacob had in him of his brother and him running from him. There was a lot more of full circle with it. If you read the story, if you read Jacob's story, you'll see there's a lot of full circle after that blessing. So there's a lot, okay? And if you look before Genesis, you see Cain and Abel, okay? And I'm going to kind of off branch on another story. Cain murdered Abel and gave in to his own sin, which destroyed him, okay? God cursed him. He's no longer a tiller of the land. He is to wander, okay? And build a town, apparently. So he was told to build a town. So he had another brother that was born named Seth, a younger brother, when he was already older, okay? And they named him that and wanted him to kind of be like Abel's replacement. Not a replacement in a way, but they wanted him to be seen like Abel. That's how I kind of saw it, okay? His parents wanted Seth to be viewed a certain way, okay? And wanted, basically, like, we want another son like Abel, okay? And you have to kind of see it where the full circle of that, like, imagine that you killed your brother, okay? And you have another brother that's born that is basically, like, blessed by God in a way, and his parents love him, and your entire family is sketched out when you're around him. There's a whole lot with that story you have to see and interpret, where you go, there's a big divine judgment there for him, where not only was he cursed and had to bear that curse for the rest of his life, but he also had to have he was also thrown into the dirt and had to eat gravel. Like, I mean, it was just, the story of Cain is just so, like, there's a lot of suffering in that because of his own action. One action in his life that caused a whole life of being cursed, but it also caused, he had a brother that was born that basically, that's really hard, dude. Especially when you're older and you're looking at that, and look at how your parents look at you, and they're kind of like guarding him when he's younger, like, don't be doing the same thing again. Like, they see you as this, like, bloodthirsty savage that gave in to sin or something. Like, you have to kind of see it, and see it from Cain's perspective in that way. And that's a hard one to do because of what he did. But if you try and put yourself in his shoes, you'll see it. That a full circle on that is not fun. Everybody else around you sees this. You see it. So full circles, this is just some examples that I have, okay? Alright, and there was one I want to talk about with Joshua 7. After the Israelites' victory at Jericho, God instructed them not to take any of the devoted things from the city. However, a man named Achan disobeyed and secretly took a beautiful Babylonian robe, silver and gold. When the Israelites were defeated in a subsequent battle, God revealed the defeat was due to Achan's sin. Achan confessed his sin, and the stolen goods were found hidden in his tent. As a consequence of his disobedience and theft, Achan and his family were punished, okay? So there's a full circle. You got punished for what you did. And I'm going to start talking about theft. This is the number one thing that I see with full circle effects, divine judgment. I see it all the time, dude. I used to see it with people that would steal tools from other people. And what would happen is people would go working with this dude, and they would see stuff in his work truck and go, oh yeah, that's so-and-so's, or that used to be mine. I swear that's mine. And the dude would deny it. But he had a full circle, and his full circle was continuous. His reputation was just like pounding him, dude. Exodus 20:15, you shall not steal. Deuteronomy 5:19, you shall not steal. Leviticus 19:11, you shall not steal, nor deal falsely, nor lie to one another. Okay? The 8th commandment, you shall not steal. It's heavily weighed on in the Bible. If you look at the book of Numbers, it does talk about if you steal from somebody, you owe them that back plus 20%. So there is serious divine judgment, and there's rules to it, dude. It's a commandment. It's in the Bible more than once. Obviously, God don't want you to steal nothing, okay? So, being said, we're going to use the biblical examples first, and I'm going to go into some personal, maybe more real-life examples that aren't in the Bible, okay? 2 Kings 5, okay? It was a biblical story about Naaman and Elisha. And he ended up curing Naaman of leprosy, okay? He was told to go and visit him. He cured him of leprosy. And then there was a situation where he cursed Gehazi with leprosy. And it was because of greed, okay? Basically, he was sent to the prophet, which was Elisha, to cure him of leprosy by washing him in the Jordan River, okay? That's basically what this was about, okay? And so you look through this, and he refused a gift from Naaman. And I'm trying to find this really quick. Hold on. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. So please accept a gift from your servant. The prophet answered, as surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept a thing. And even though Naaman urged him, he refused. So he refused a gift, okay? And you see this where it's like, okay, Elisha ended up saying at the end of this, go in peace, okay? After Naaman had traveled some distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, had said to himself, my master, so this is the servant of Elisha, this is the servant to the prophet, okay, said to himself, my master was too easy on Naaman, this Aramean. I don't know. My master was too easy on Naaman by not accepting from him what he brought. As surely as the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him. That's where he screwed up, okay? So Gehazi hurried after Naaman. When Naaman saw him running toward him, he got down from the chariot to meet him. Is everything all right? He asked. Everything is all right, Gehazi answered. My master sent me to say, 2 young men from the company of the prophets have just come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver or 2 sets of clothing. He was never sent, but he lied about it, okay? By all means, take 2 talents, said Naaman. He urged Gehazi to accept them, and then tied up the 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 sets of clothing. He gave them to 2 of his servants, and they carried them ahead of Gehazi. When Gehazi came to the hill, he took the things from the servants and put them away in the house. He sent the men away, and they left, okay? So, he comes back, and Elisha asks him, where you been, alright? Your servant didn't go anywhere, Gehazi answers, so he lied to him. But Elisha said to him, was not my spirit with you when the man got down from his chariot to meet you? Is this the time to take money or to accept clothes, or olive groves and vineyards, or flocks and herds, or male and female slaves? Naaman's leprosy will cling to you and to your descendants forever. Then Gehazi went from Elisha's presence, and his skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow. Okay, so there was a curse placed on Gehazi that was basically something that was cured of the man in which he lied to in order to get what he wanted. Okay? So this story is really important. I think that a lot of people, they look over it. They don't see it. If you steal something from somebody, you don't know what God's going to do to you. He will have you in one way or another, even if it's just you getting exposed for it, okay? So, a dude's cured of leprosy. Elisha refuses it. His servant goes and accepts a gift that he wasn't sent for and lies about it to both of them. So he's cursed with the same disease that the man was cured of. Okay? That's wild to think about. So, how does this pertain to our everyday life? Okay? You see that white car over there? Alright. Say I go and this sounds really bad, okay? Say I go and I break into that car and I take something of good in there. Something that's theirs. I took it and I ran, okay? That could have been a blessing that God gave that person, okay? And regardless if it's a blessing or it's not, okay? You get cursed for it. You get cursed for stealing stuff, okay? So if you take something from somebody, and this can be something that I've actually dug into this a little bit and gone, this may not be something that's also material. If you lie to somebody and you ruin their life because you lie to them, there might be a full circle effect on that where that happens to you. Where somebody lies to you about something really important and it ruins your life. You could have something really bad. Generally, you have to see it, okay? You see people that will steal certain things and they'll get caught up on something else that's unrelated, okay? And if you're stolen from, God will pay you back. And this is something that I learned, okay? And I learned this, I'm going to use an example of a job. I had a dude that I worked on his car, okay? He didn't pay me, he just dipped. Hopped in his car and boom, he was out of there. Like, out of there. I turned around, put my tools away, turned around, I was like, what? Like, man, you owe me $250. Like, what happened there? You know what I mean? Like, what's up with that? A couple days later, I had somebody who messaged me and said, like, hey, I need this job done, okay? It only costs about $200 to get it done, okay? Just $200, and it's not really that big of a job, okay? But he said the shops are backed up. I need this done today, and I'll pay you double. I'll pay you $400. I'll pay you $400 if you get this done today. You don't get that type of offers in my line of work. It happened right after. Somebody took money from me and they dipped without payment. What God will do sometimes is he will take that money from that person and he will give it back to you through another person. So you're sitting there shaking your fist at the person, you owe me money, you owe me money. Step back and go, God will pay me back. He did, right in front of my eyes. I had money taken from me and it was given back to me through somebody else. Through a job I had to earn, of course, but I was still doing my normal thing. It wasn't like I wasn't expecting it to just land in my lap. Like I walked and tripped over $250 in the street and went, oh, like, bruh, there's some money. It's not like that. God will repay you through other people. And this could be that maybe you grow up and you were lied to by like everybody, okay? Like everybody lied to you. And there will be a certain point in your life where everybody around you will tell the truth and be loyal to you. And, that's, of course, there's exceptions where you can get betrayed and things happen, okay? But you will see that full circle. If you sow light on somebody, they have a full circle that is opposite to yours. Your full circle, you will get repaid for what you lost. God will make sure that you are taken care of. So all you have to do, you don't go shaking your fist, doing witchcraft and doing all this stuff and cursing people. You don't do that, okay? You just don't do that. Well, and you're not a prophet, Elisha, that situation was a big deal, okay? It's such a cornerstone in that book of Kings, 2 Kings, that when you see that, you go, wait a second. Like, if someone takes something from you, you don't need to freak out. They took it from you. You're going to have moments before you're awakened to this, you will freak out. They stole it from me. I'm mad. This. Don't really focus on getting mad. Forgive the person. The quicker you forgive the person, the quicker God's going to repay you back, because you're being obedient to him. So you need to see it that way. God will pay you back through somebody else, okay? So you have to see that. The question is, and it wasn't stated in the Bible like this, but when it comes to Naaman, okay? Maybe Naaman was paid back that 2 bags of silver through somebody else. That somebody else, hey, here's 2 bags of silver for this, even if he had to work for it, or whatever it may be. God will pay you back, dude. You don't have to stress about it. You don't need to shake your fist. Don't go walking out in the dark and being pissed. Go read the Bible. Figure these things out. And and it could be the 20% rule with numbers, that maybe you get 20% back with it. Okay? And maybe God orchestrates these things for a reason. When you have faith, God will just pay you back, dude. Like, you really don't have to get... I've seen mechanics that get gypped, and they will go back to that car and they will tear it to shreds. They will rip the valve covers off. They'll cut belts. They'll do this, and if you're not going to pay me, then this is what you get. You don't do that. You do sow as much light as you can, and you stand back and you're, hold up a second. God's going to take care of me here as long as I do right by this situation in the most wise manner I could. I ran into a situation where there was a mechanic that probably didn't get paid, and he ripped a bunch of ground wires out of a car, okay? And I didn't see it until I didn't get paid. So it was one of those things where, like, and eventually I got paid because the dude needed my help again. So sorry I couldn't pay you. I was broke. I couldn't really face that. And I was like, okay, that's okay. Water under the bridge. There's still that kind of like sketchiness where it's like, dog, I just did this for 5 hours. You didn't pay me. But eventually he paid me. He needed me for something else. So it came back to me. It wasn't a big deal, okay? But I've had it with certain situations where there's certain situations where I was taken from where I haven't been paid back yet. But I know it's coming, okay? So you have to understand that, you'll come across a time in your life where you get stolen from heavily, and then 10 years later you get blessed really heavily. I mean, for something that you look back and go, huh? That's where you see these stories of, like, everybody treated me like crap, everybody stole my stuff and all this, and now I'm up here doing this, and I'm up on top. Because God put you up on top. He blessed you because you didn't take revenge. If you don't take revenge, God loves you for that. If you sow darkness, God won't like that. So, that situation of Naaman, Elisha, and Gehazi, it teaches you how to deal with situations. If somebody goes deceiving somebody just to get what they want, they're not going to have it for long. And if they do, they're cursed for it. So there was a scripture that I saw in the Bible. It said, I don't remember what the scripture was, but it was basically like, the wealth of your crime will be your downfall, basically. And you'll see that with people. I've seen it with certain people where it's like, the wealth of the wealth they gain from their crime curses them so badly that they have to, I mean, it's a lot, man. Like, you have to bear that weight. You have to bear that weight. And that's one thing where you're like, okay, I got stolen from and I got betrayed. I don't want to carry any weight for that. So you don't want to go cutting ground wires and doing that, because in the back of your mind you're sitting there going, this dude could have, taking me to court, like small claims for that shit. People don't think about that, man. Like, if you sow complete light, God will have his hand over you, man. He'll have his hand over you. You need to operate appropriately in life, okay? Full circle effects, okay? Look at what happened with Cain and Abel. Cain was cursed, and then his younger brother came along named Seth. That they wanted him to. They wanted this child to be like Abel, favored by God. And it was apparent, they made that apparent to Cain that was the case. That full circle, man. And it hit him later in life, too. I mean, he's building a town, he can't till the land anymore, nothing will produce. He's forced into building this town and carrying this curse on him. That evolved, it evolved. Like, you can see it on people when they've done something terrible to somebody and it's on them. They're carrying it, dude. And if you carry your cross, you pick up the Bible, you read Proverbs, you read Matthew, you read Luke, you even read Revelations, you read all these books, you start to see this mark on this person. You don't know what happened, but you can see it. You have to hold on. You have to get wisdom about the situation, okay? Somebody robs me for a car job, okay? A couple $100. They take off. What's a foolish decision to make? There's a lot of them. You could make a foolish decision by turning around and smearing that person's reputation. That's a foolish decision. To tell people about it and say, hey, this dude kind of like warn people about it, okay. But you don't go around spreading rumors about somebody and, false things and being a false witness and stuff. You don't turn around and you do that. You don't turn around and cut ground wires and rip belts out and pull a fuel pump and throw it on their roof. You just don't do that stuff, okay? What's the wisest decision to make? The wisest decision to make is to let it go, because it was meaningless. It was meaningful because you learned something from it. I should have asked for half up front. Meaningful. You learn something about how you operate when you do business. I should have done half up front. So, we think about these everyday life decisions that we make, okay? And maybe it's not something where somebody stole something from you too. Divine judgment can happen for something as simple as you spread a rumor about somebody that wasn't true just because you don't like them. And people don't like you because you spread it. Because they're sitting there scratching their head going, what'd you spread about me? I can't trust you. I don't like you being around me. You're kind of cursed. That's why my Lone Wolf Code, it's in one of my books, okay? My Lone Wolf Code. And one of my codes, okay? One of my codes that I go by is do not say something bad about anybody. Especially somebody you don't know. You don't know who that person is. They could come back and check you real hard and you're in his position. You don't want that, okay? And if you didn't say something about somebody and somebody created a rumor and came to you, you can basically justify it to somebody and they'll understand. It's the way, it's the mode of being that you carry that makes people understand that. So if you actually said it and you know they tell you, oh, you know, I know you said it and this and that, and you're like, no, I didn't. They're gonna see it. They're gonna see you go full blown yellow, and they're gonna just see it and go, yeah, dude, you said something. If you didn't, you ain't got nothing to lose. And your reputation will precede you. So if you never said anything bad about anybody, they're not gonna believe it. They're gonna go, you're orchestrating something because you don't like that dude. And that happens a lot. It's happened to me before. Someone came up to me and said, hey, you know, this person told me that you said this, this, and this about me. And in reality, they were the ones that said it about them and then said it was me that spread it. And there's other people that were around that heard it. They went, no. Wolf didn't say nothing. Wolf heard it, but he turned a blind eye and was like, nah, it's a bunch of bullcrap. Some people may get mad that you didn't tell them about it, but giving into foolishness like that, people will understand that if you explain it that way. Why didn't you tell me about this person saying this? Because there was time in between it. It's completely foolish, man. You think I'm going to believe that? I know you. It's the way that you... If the more wise you treat that situation, the more people are going to understand that you don't do that, okay? And that's just true. So, don't say nothing bad about anybody. Walking out, I'm not... Everybody's going to say that you're this gossiping, you know, troublemaker, dude. Nobody trusts you. That's your full circle for that. You're out there spreading rumors, nobody trusts you. Nobody wants to be around you. You're going to turn around and start doing the same shit again. And even if they didn't, the people who are involved in that, you will see this where people will spread rumors about somebody, get busted for doing it, and they dip. Like, they dip, dog. Like, you will never see them. They move to a whole new place, start life over again. And it's their own divine judgment. They're running from that judgment, but it's constantly chasing them. So, when you have somebody that sows darkness, the light is constantly chasing them to hit them with that divine judgment. And people will run from it. But you can't run from God, dog. Like, you can't. God is in control of everything. He's all around us, okay? He's in that bush. He's in that tree. He's in the sky. He's in you. He's everywhere around you. You can't escape it. Mistakes come with divine judgment and full circle. If you bless somebody, there's a full circle for it where God will bless you, even if it's through somebody else. And it may not be, it could be like this. I gave this guy $200. Why? Because he needed it. He was on his last. He's homeless. He has all these problems, okay? God blesses you with an opportunity, not money. So it's not always a direct 200 for 200. It's not like that. It is sometimes. It was with my case, which is really weird, okay? But you look out here, okay? Sometimes you can help somebody out and God will bless you with an opportunity, even though you have to work for it. God gave you that avenue. He opened up a gate for you. So you could see it as though you don't curse people, you bless them, okay? You don't curse people from in this dark way, okay? Here's the deal, okay? You see Elisha, you know, placed a curse on this person. God worked through that man to do that, okay? We're not God, and we're not Elisha, okay? So you have to see it that way, okay? So when you're operating around here, how is it that you could curse somebody? Well, I mean, spreading a rumor about somebody is kind of cursing somebody. You just curse their reputation. God will curse you for it. And that person walks away like, I don't even know. As long as they're in the light and they're doing what they're doing right by everybody. You will walk away, I don't know, that dude's crazy. Like, you get smacked. That full circle comes with a big stick. But God is kind. He has abundant love, okay? So, if I sow light, think about it this way. Say this dude was at a rest stop, okay? He's broken down. His car ain't running. I show up and I help him, but he ain't got that much cash, okay? You got enough to pay for my gas and a park. Maybe a little bit on top, okay? I'll help you out. Say he was he's trying to get into college to play college football. Okay? That one out that you gave him when you fixed his car, even if you did or you didn't, okay? That dude ends up in the NFL playing for the Lions, okay? Or he plays for the Detroit Lions, okay? And later on, he tells people, that mechanic right there helped me out a lot. You should read his book. I'm just saying. People will bless you later because you blessed them and they were in a hard spot and you helped them out. Okay? If I would have showed up, I would have pissed, he didn't have any money, and cut his belt. What would have happened? What would have happened? Dude plays for the Detroit Lions and he tells everybody that you cut his belt because you was pissed. That you have to see it. Every decision you make in your life will impact you in one way or another. Small scale, big scale. You got to understand that. And I'm not saying go around and hand your money out to the homeless and hope that God blesses you for it. I'm not saying that. What does God want you to do? If God speaks to you really quick and says, hey, you should help that dude out. He was shaking a can, throw him $5. Maybe you should do that. If God tells you to do something, and you'll feel it in your intuition, and you'll even hear a subconscious whisper once in a while, you should do that. So you did it. Later on, it paid off. If you ignored it, well, God's not going to curse you for just driving by somebody and deciding not to give them $5. I mean, he could, but you're not really betraying somebody. God may be showing you an opportunity that you could probably bless this person, and maybe later off it pays off, even if it's not through that person, it's through somebody else. And maybe God's testing you. Did you just get a bunch of wealth? Do you have abundant money? Are you going to help that person out? Or maybe I should take it from you and put your head in the dirt and eat some gravel for a little bit. You don't want that. So I take every situation seriously. And I mean, using that situation of giving money to the homeless, okay? I talked about a video about bearing weight, okay? I think this is one reason why we intuitively will give to the poor and the needy. It alleviates the weight of things that have been done by humanity that have scarred us. To sow light to somebody will alleviate weight on you, even if it's temporarily. I just see it that way. Maybe other people see it other way. Some people are like, they're going to go buy alcohol. They're going to buy a bunch of beer and get drunk. It's like, okay. I mean, I don't know that personally. That dude could go buy a lottery ticket and he's paid. He's cool. Like, he's set. God's taking care of him. You don't know what that person's going to do. If he's on drugs, well, that's on them. That's their decision. And maybe if they do that and they go and buy a six-pack with it, God's going to put them in the dirt and to eat gravel. Nobody's going to give you any money because you just went and drank some more. Well, I told you to stop doing it. Put yourself together. You got to see it that way, okay? So, the impact that you have on somebody, you have to let go of. Because God only knows what that impact will be. So, sow light to everybody. Do right by everybody. Don't steal nothing. Pay your own way and do what you have to do. Okay? That's how I see it. Just pay your own way. Do what you have to do. Don't steal from people. Like, especially if you steal from somebody who needs it, dog. You steal from somebody who needs what you just stole. Like, say I went up into that white car over there. I broke in and I stole that lady's purse. And it's probably a dude that drives it. No, my luck, okay? So say you stole that lady's purse, okay? It's got everything she needs in it. Her social security card, all that. Dude, that person needs all that stuff. Like, you're taking from somebody that needs it. Even if it's something that's really important. That God, he'll orchestrate it, man. You'll get everything taken from you and you're done. That's why if I find a wallet, I'm walking around and I find a wallet sitting on the curb over there, you best bet I'll go turn it into the police. Like, give it back to them. I don't care if there's $700, $8,000, how much is in it. That's going back to the police for one, or for two, I can look them up on Facebook or whatever. Hey, you lost your wallet here. Here you go. Not one dime missing from it. Why? Because God might be testing me right there and saying, are you going to do the right thing? And that depends on how deep I went into it. I could just turn my head and I didn't see nothing and walk away. But God would want me to get that back to that person. Would God want me to take some money out of that? No. There's $7,000 in there. Shoot, they might give you $1,000 for it. Just for being honest and not taking nothing. And if not, God will bless you. Even if it's not here. Things that if you bless somebody here and you don't see it come back to you in some way, God will bless you abundantly in the afterlife. He'll pay you back, man. Like you don't. God's not the type that's gonna sit there and go, okay, you sowed light to this person, you bless this person, and well, that's it. Sorry, God will bless you abundantly for blessing people. God will curse you for cursing other people. You have a chance. I could curse that person by taking that wallet right off of that curb right there, and it's cursing that person because I took the money. The wealth of my crime will take me straight down. That money will be the last I'll ever see. I fear God over anything. I only fear God. I mean, you put me in front of a grizzly bear, I'm sure there's going to be some fear, okay? You put me in front of a train that's coming at me, I'm probably going to be pretty scared, okay? But I'm more afraid of God than anything. What's God going to do to me if I end up taking that wallet? He's going to have he's going to have me. He's going to have me for it, okay? So you need to kind of think about it. You need to think about, there's a potential test or situation that's placed in your path. Based upon how you deal with it is based upon how your full circle and divine judgment hits you. There's some people that they did something wrong early in their life, and then later on that hits them. So they got to live for a bit, but hit them like a anvil, like a rock, like just bam, and their whole life is upside down. You did something really good when you were younger. So you were a teenager and you fixed this dude's car for free. He ended up being the mayor of the town. And even if that's not the case, your reputation precedes you. There's a story that person can tell. Maybe you put some hope into that person that there's still some good people around, when they're used to getting screwed over all the time. Your decisions impact the things around you and further. So say that dude that plays the Detroit Lions, and this would be a really good one. Say he plays for the Detroit Lions, okay? And now everybody on the NFL team wants me to do their head gaskets. I'm cool with that. Even if it's something I gotta work for, dude, I don't mind. When you live in the light and you bless other people and you do not curse them, you don't have anything to worry about. There is no weight on you. You're light as a feather. You repent for what you've done wrong in your life, and you start blessing people and not cursing them. Life gets easier. If you spread a rumor about somebody, you have a weight on your neck that person's going to find out, or people are going to look at me a certain way, this, that. A rumor came your way about somebody else, you just told them, I don't really buy that, it's not from the mouth of the person. Well, the other person's going to be kind of like, they might glitch and like kind of, like bend back a little bit, not really know how to deal with you, or just walk away. They might hate you because you won't spread the rumor and give in to their weird stuff. I mean, I don't know what that's about. But depending on how you deal with something, God will bless you for it, okay? And you can see them as tests. So you can see the wallets on the curb. God's testing me right now. But you need to see it as every single situation that happens like that, you can see it as this could be the most important decision I'll ever make in my life. Take every single decision that you have into account that way. This next one or this one yesterday, and it's all collective. All these decisions were the most important decisions of my life. I didn't handle them like a fool. I didn't curse anybody. I blessed them. I walked in the light. You need to understand something, okay? I'm not saying that you're gonna go, life is life, okay? You're going to see people that will curse other people by doing certain things, but you'll see other people that will bless other people, and you see the outcome. Somebody that curses somebody else by doing something dark to them affects their whole circle. That person does something right by somebody, it affects their whole circle in a positive and negative polarity, a dark and light polarity. Once you understand full circle divine judgment, it's the same. That's what I call it. Divine judgment is full circle. I call it divine judgment. It's just the full circle effect is the way that I explain it to people. Because you can say divine judgment to people and they see it as though I'm standing at the gates once I die and God's going to judge me for everything. Well, and that's a divine judgment too. You did something wrong in your life, God's going to judge you for it at the gates, and you're going to have to go through that too. So And that could end up in a weird infinity loop situation where you did something bad and you're dealing with it all in the afterlife because you're cursed for it. You know, you're dealing with it here, afterlife, everything, man. Like, you don't want that. You don't want that smoke, and God will serve you smoke. You don't want that. You don't. The way you handle situations in life, it sets the road for you. If you take into a mindset when you look in the mirror that I'm going to make as many righteous decisions as I possibly can and avoid wickedness, okay? I'm going to make as many righteous decisions as I can. And it doesn't necessarily to bless or curse anybody. So that's one whole other thing. How you operate every day with every decision you make will affect the next step for you. You operate in the dark, you're way out there, and you're trying to get back into the light. If you're living in a delusion, your chances of walking straight aren't going to be very good. And if you snap out into the dark and you snap back into the Bible, you will look at how much of a fool you were for thinking I'm this, or I have that, or flexing on this and this, when realistically this is reality, okay? Living in the light is living in your own reality. If you live in a delusion, okay, what's going to happen to you? You're going to wake up eventually. Some people live and die in their delusions. And what's that? You had less meaning and more meaninglessness in your life. Every day had 90% meaninglessness and 10% meaning. Sometimes no meaning at all because you didn't learn any lessons or get wise. So to get wise and make righteous decisions is the most meaningful thing you could possibly do on a day-to-day basis, okay? Well, I make foolish decisions. I'm chewing gum now. I just smoked a cigar. Maybe smoking a cigar was a foolish decision. Maybe me smoking a cigar while I'm talking about wisdom is a weird duality for me, okay? Because it's like, well, people could say, well, you're a fool for smoking, okay? Okay. I got my jester hat on for 5 minutes while I smoke my cigar. Hit me with sticks if you want to. I'm okay. Lump me for it. It's my thing. So you have to see it, okay? Wisdom helps you see. If you're in the dark and you're staring at the light, you're blinded. You're blinded, you're living in your own delusion, and you're staring at the truth right in front of you. But you're not living in it. Once you come to the truth and you repent for what you've done wrong, ask God for forgiveness. Ask God for direction. Flip open your Bible and it's right there. That's happened to me before. I did not know who I was here for a while, okay? And it wasn't like I was sewing myself into a delusion way out into the dark, but I was unaware of the lies around me. Once I got wisdom, I started to see, okay, I was lied to here, here, and here. I have to rewire and reprogram. Wisdom comes first. Wisdom comes first. The way you operate in your life, read the story of Jesus Christ on how Jesus lived his life, the way he treated people, how he forgave people, how he saw the world, and how... Read his parables on how Jesus spoke. Change your whole life. And once you apply them to your own mind and your own life, it'll change your life, man. It'll change your life. And a lot of people will tell me, like, well, there's wisdom all throughout the Bible, which is true. You have Old Testament wisdom and you have New Testament wisdom. Old Testament wisdom, that is old wisdom, okay? I'm talking about, you look at everything from Genesis to Proverbs and all the books in between, and you will see wisdom that was ingrained in humanity that God created and a long time ago. That is super important. The snake and the stick. It's important to understand the snake and the stick, the mark of Cain, the flood. If you don't understand those three, that is the basis where I would say you need to understand that. Accept that God created the heavens and the earth and try and see how he did it. You're not going to really understand how he did it because you're one human being walking around like a flashlight in your head and you're just a camera lens experiencing life. So God is the ultimate eye. He sees everything. He sees it all. He's created it all. You're merely a lens that was created by him and put on this earth for a human experience. Okay? That's a weird thing to think about. But within that human experience, you have the situation where you could bite somebody with a snake in a betrayal and they hit you with a stick so bad that it causes a flood in your life, and you don't have any wisdom here, therefore you have no ark and you're out in the water flapping our floaties on trying to make it. That's the way it is. Build your ark. Don't be marking yourself and cursing yourself by disobeying God. You disobey God and you go beat the crap out of somebody over here for pretty much no reason, whatever, God's gonna curse you for it. Yeah, you're probably gonna get the crap beat out of you too. Just do right by everybody, man. That's all you have to do. You see through this camera lens, all right? There's your eyeball, your spirit, your soul. You see the reality that God has created. We operate off these archetypes. Look at Genesis. All the way through, you'll see it. The snake and the stick is I can't stress how important that is. The snake and the stick is important. And once you get bit by enough snakes, once you're bit by enough snakes, you're able to take full control of your stick and full control of your snake and have a balance, okay? You'll have some people that will hit you with the stick over and over and over again, and it's actually a snake bite. There's a balance to the snake and the stick. You have to have control of your snake so you're not betraying and biting every single person around you. And you have to make sure that you're not hitting people unwarrantedly with a stick and it's actually biting them, okay? You also have to make sure that you're using a stick. God will use the stick through you, dude. Some people spread rumors about you and they're hit with a stick and you're like, God just sent a stick through my chest and it just hit this person in the face. And you're like, I don't really understand how that happened. I was just there, okay? Actively engaging and picking up that stick and maybe confronting somebody is the whack, which is okay. It's not like you kept whacking the crap out of them and confronting them every day about it, reminding them, hey, this every day, okay? There's a duality to the balance. What happens if you have your snake and it's so controlled that you repress it, okay? You have no interest in anything. Two people that are lusting for each other in a marriage, their snakes are engaged, but they're not really, I mean, maybe they're biting each other, but not in like maybe it's a nibble. That was kind of weird. That was weird. I'm gonna post that anyway, but whatever. To engage with your snake is to engage in your interest on the outside world. If you completely repress your snake, I constantly have this stick and I'm looking around to hit every snake that's around me because I'm so terrified that I'm going to get bit again. I was there, okay? This wasn't that long ago. I was there where I was looking around with the stick, dude, like, pop out. I'm going to lump your skull. Like, it was like whack-a-mole to me. I was like, this is, you know, you have to understand it. You'll see it when you have, look at two people, okay? A man and a woman meet, okay? And they're both interested in each other, and you can see their snakes emerge in each other, with each other, where we're interested in each other. Asking questions about the other person, this and that, this and that. Their snakes are engaged, but they still have control of that stick. You step that bounce, I'm going to whack you on the head, we're never seeing each other again, okay? That's stepping boundaries. So you see it where people move too fast, okay? Somebody moves too fast on somebody, you're hit with a stick, I'm not interested, and you're crap. I should have slowed down. Sometimes that's hard. It depends on the pace of people, okay, how they are, interest level. But I'm getting off topic, but I want to put this at the end of the video. When you have two people that have been betrayed so much that they're too afraid to engage in each other, they both have the stick and they're standing like this, like, your snake come out first, whose snake's coming out first, I'm gonna whack it. It doesn't work. You have two people that are so scarred that they're not open to interest because of what's happened to them. So when you get scarred, so say you get cheated on, don't be scared to be interested in another person. But you have that stick there where you see red flags. You step those bounds, I'm going to lump you once. And God's probably going to lump you too. Okay? So you need to understand how the snake and the stick works. The snake and the stick is something that God orchestrated. So God can orchestrate it generally where you see the snake bite as I'm disobedient to God, okay? And the stick comes from God, BAP. But there's an active engagement within humanity where we can, you see that the snake in the Garden of Eden, it was placed there. God placed it there. A lot of people will say that the tree with the fruit, okay, will say it was a psychedelic fruit, and Eve ate it, and Adam ate it, and they became self-aware of their nakedness, and their awareness came up. Not true. What happened? It could have been a normal tree, okay? A normal tree that God told them, don't eat from that one. So it's archetypical. Disobedience, snake, fruit. You went and disobeyed me and listened to the snake, bam, there's your stick. Now it had to happen in order for humanity's consciousness to be formed with archetypes. So as soon as that happened to Adam and Eve, awareness was there that I betrayed God. Was I necessarily marked for it? You are marked with an archetype that you carried forward within human history forward, okay? Everybody carries it in them. The flood is the same thing, okay? Somebody can bite you with a snake, and you can go through a flood. If you're wise, you'll survive it with everything intact. If you're a fool floating out there in floaties trying to climb on your door like the Titanic, you're generally, everything that you have in your life is going to float away. If you don't have wisdom, it's all going to float away. What is the most foolish thing to do? Well, trying to climb on somebody else's ark, because they're probably going to hit you with a stick, and probably with a paddle. But you have to see it, okay? And if you take someone aboard your ship, what are you doing? You're trying to give them wisdom. So sitting down reading the Bible and telling someone this is the most wise thing you could possibly do and giving advice is technically somebody visiting your ark and then jumping back on their door and trying to build their own ark based upon the wisdom that you gave them from the Bible. But they can't build the ark. Building the ark is the Bible. The Bible is the supplies. It is the hammers, the nails, the wood, everything. The animals can be seen as your responsibilities, your assets. So if you hit a flood and you're not prepared, you could lose everything. Your responsibilities, your assets, anything that you own or that you have around you, you'll lose it all. You'll lose it all and you're left pretty much like on bottom trying to figure it out. And maybe you put a couple, you're trying to tap your way into a boat, even a fishing boat. If you're going through a flood in your life, somebody died in your family and it struck a flood for you because they were the person that was the glue of your family, okay? If you go and start reading Proverbs and you start figuring out wisdom, foolishness, how I can be wise, how I can be less foolish, archetypes of the Bible, you start figuring out what God wants you to figure out, you'll build this ark where you're not really worried about the storm. You're just more of wanting to know, when can I send a dove out there that will bring back an olive branch to tell me it's safe to exit out into the world and operate where I don't get bit right away and get struck into a flood. If you're wise and you get bit by a snake, you just tread right over them. You tread over serpents and snakes. If you're wise, you will tread over serpents and snakes. You need to understand that. So if someone tries to bite you, you can't really bite you. I'm already wise. Like, you took $200 from me. I'm not going to do nothing to you, but God's going to pay me back. I am wise. I don't have this flood coming up bothering me. I'm just floating along. Everything's cool. And floods will happen. Floods will happen. Your kid gets sick. You have a flood. You lost your job. You will have a flood. But if you're wise and you have faith, you'll coast right through. You'll be okay. What's the most wise decision to make? Save my money. Lost my job. I'll save my money. Not going to blow it at the bar and go get drunk and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff and gamble. Not smart. It's not wise. You have to see that. A flood can wipe you out, dog. We're back on bottom. I'm building everything back up. It happened to me. It happened to me. Flood hit me. I freaked out, sold everything, and then now I don't got any tools. Now I'm on bottom. I don't got no tools. I'm bottomed out. My elephants and giraffes and zebras are floating away. It's my responsibilities hit the floor and I lost them. Okay? I lost certain things that if I was wise, I would have had an ark built and I would have been wise. I would have done things in a different manner that I would have been able to hold on to some stuff. Okay? And one thing I can say is if you have a flood hit your life, try and throw every habit you have overboard. Throw your barrels of rum over, dude. That's your habits, your rum barrels. You throw them overboard. You get rid of your habits first. That is dead weight. That is dead weight. A rum barrel is not the responsibility of all the world's animals crammed onto one ship and you gotta feed them with grain. It's not like that. Something that Jordan Peterson once said was, take all your dead wood and put it to the flames, okay? The phoenix archetype, which isn't biblical, but it's important. It's akin to a rebirth, regrowth, okay? So you need to understand that. Like, there's certain things that you need to be aware of. Like, yeah, you got all your animals, you got a roof on it, you got all this, but I got a bunch of rum and I got a bunch of cigarettes and I got a bunch of pot on board. Throw it overboard. It's dead weight. And what's it going to do? Well, it's akin to you kind of putting a hole in your ship, because you give into those rum barrels too much, you're going to shoot a hole through your ship and you're going to sink and all your stuff's gone. Because you're drinking, you're making dumb decisions based upon your habits when you should be being wise. That's just how I see it. And no, I wasn't drinking rum on the ship. So, that ain't biblical. So, you just need to be aware of some of that stuff, okay? So, it's important. A flood hits your life or something bad happens, you turn right to God. You turn right to God and you start reading and you start asking questions. You start figuring out, why is this meaningless? Why is it meaningful? If you don't extract that meaning, you could be a world of hurt, dog. So, and you could be trying to climb on somebody else's ship and they can't afford to have you on there because you're bringing them down because you don't have faith. You have opposite ideals and this person's trying to tell you, hey, you got to get wise. You know, you need to figure yourself out. So that's what I got for today, man. Pay attention to your full circles. Pay attention. Divine judgment happens in positive, negatives, dark and light. Divine judgment isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes God will give you divine judgment and He blesses you. Remember that. Peace out. Lone Wolf.